right after New Year, everybody seems to be gearing up for the election. Has that caught you by surprise at all?
For us, things haven't really changed, to be honest. We've always worked flat out anyway, because there's a lot of people approaching us, particularly in the new year. Weather's been cold, people are sort of still feeling the effects of the recession. So we always work flat out, nothing's different. But I suppose the way it's sort of geared up nationally for the campaign, probably a bit early. People might be a bit sick of it come the election time.
It's funny talking about campaigns, because we interviewed the PPC for the Lib Dems over in Thurrock 2 days ago, and she talked about lack of funding that she has. How does the recession or funding affect you at all?
Well, it does, because we're voluntary organisations. We rely on donations and support from our members and supporters. So we do our own fundraising, we look for support. So we'll count the pennies as we get closer to the election. But I think it's impacted on all voluntary organisations, not just political parties. And it'll be a difficult election to fight. We've got nothing like the resources of the Tories. So we're always a bit of the underdog in that sense, but that's nothing new. So
you're saying that the resources of the Tories, I was over filming in West Thurrock, and that's not a constituency, but a huge poster to do with the David Cameron NHS. Are you going to be able to match that?
No, we probably couldn't afford to pay for the airbrushing either. I've seen the David Cameron and then the airbrush version, not quite how I remember him, but it's a great photograph. Wish they could do the same for me, really. But no, I don't think we'd be matching that kind of money. But are people really swayed so much by that? I don't know. He looks good in the pictures.
It's seen as was a good week for Labour in regards to the economy, because we had things like the FTSE bounced up. Shops like John Lewis reported great sales, and indeed Lakeside have been reporting great sales, and indeed the announcement from DP World, which we'll get onto in a minute. And then Jeff Hoon and Patricia Hewitt. What was your reaction to that?
Oh, dismay, shock, and anger, I have to say. We're seeing a lot more confidence in the economy, as you've said. We're not out of recession yet. It's going to take a while, and there's lots of people have had a hard time. They're going to have to be build up again, and business will build up again. But we're seeing the starts of that increased confidence. And it just seems to me, you work together as a team on these things. And then Jeff and Patricia, out of the blue, come out with this statement saying they want to put the issue of the leadership to rest. Well, we all thought we'd done that some months ago. They've got no alternative candidate, they had no suggestions for policy, they just seem to be, we don't like Gordon, and you just wonder why 2 ex-ministers who appear to be disappointed decide at this time that they, with no troops behind them, want to raise this issue. Doesn't help anybody except the Tories.
But it seemed within the Westminster Village, indeed, BBC's Nick Robinson suddenly mentioned about 6 cabinet ministers who he understood were going to support this, but it seemed like a real Westminster Village playground spat.
It did seem that, didn't it? And I think people sometimes get dismayed about politics. We sit there, argue amongst ourselves and forget what's happening in the real world. I spoke to journalists during the day, and it was interesting because when they first issued the letter, which I think significantly, it was emailed out at 12:26, just as the Prime Minister walks into question time, so he wouldn't see it, which I thought was a bit sneaky, really, isn't it? And the journalists then were thinking, well, what's more to this? What's going to be behind it? What else is going to happen? Then within an hour, they were saying, there's nothing to this, is there? But the story, was a fun story for the media. It was a bit of a quiet day. But I think particularly the Prime Minister had a sort of barnstorming Prime Minister's questions, and he really nailed Cameron on the key economic issues of sort of the nonsense we've had during the week about are the Tories in favour of tax cuts for marriage or not. It was a yes, no, and the Prime Minister sort of said, this is what we're on record for, this is what you want to do. It was all about policy, it was in-depth, good political stuff, and then we have this silliness. So I think MPs are pretty angry with them.
Interesting enough, on Radio 5 in the evening, there's quite a few people who rang in and said they felt sorry for Gordon Brown in the middle of this, and indeed William Hill's betting odds brought it in as if to say this had been actually quite a good piece of news for Gordon Brown. Do you think that's true? That's
interesting. I didn't see that. I went and saw the Prime Minister just when he came out of Prime Minister's questions. I was with him at the time, and I have to say, don't feel too sorry for him. He's a big man, he can deal with these things, and he's used to dealing with difficult issues, and I don't think he lost too much sleep over Jeff Hoon and Patricia Hewitt.
Going back to the local economy, Tuesday you were down at DP World with the announcement. That must have been a great encouragement for you.
The economic issues of the area, I think it's fantastic. People have seen jobs on that site in the past. There were thousands of jobs on that site in the past, and over the years they've dwindled away. and you just wonder what happens for future generations if we haven't got the jobs locally. So economically, a huge boost. There's still issues, I think, for local people that need to be reassurance on, need to be looked at. There's still issues around transport, still looking at environmental issues. And that's some of the things I raised with DP World, indeed with Peter Mandelson, particularly about train transport as well while I was down there. So, yeah, but economically, it's probably the best news the area could have had.
We're here in your office on a Friday afternoon. There's a real hubbub here at the moment. Right? You know, are there any plans over the next weekend or the week in order to get out and about in the community?
In the snow, it might be difficult to encourage people to get out and about. It's a blizzard out there at the moment. But yes, tomorrow we're busy stuffing envelopes. Tomorrow we've got a few people out knocking on doors. But that's, you know, the business of a Member of Parliament. You know, we need to keep in touch with people. You'll find most Fridays when I'm in the office, this is a real hub. We have some volunteers come in as well. I've got a group of young people that want to be involved in the work I'm doing, and I think it's great to involve people in the work of a Member of Parliament. You know, how many people really get the opportunity to go to the House of Commons, talk to their MP? So we try to do as much as that's possible to involve people, not just saying go and vote at election time, but get involved, talk to people, raise issues.
Would you, statistically or otherwise, would you describe yourself as the underdog?
Oh, absolutely. Perhaps I've been so for a long time in some ways. It's quite funny, ever since I got elected, and with a very healthy majority in 1997, with like huge sort of landslides, the Labour Party, the Tories have been saying, we'll have you out at the next election. This time, to try and make it easier for them, the boundaries changes have moved the goalposts. So my majority has been reduced significantly, so it's a tough seat. I'm not doing what previous MPs have done. I'm not flying off to somewhere else. I'm staying on my home patch, and I know I will do my best to try and win. But at the end of the day, it's up to the electorate. If they want me to stay, then please vote for me. But it'll be a difficult election.